welcome to another Checiegirl Creations video. So in this video I'll be painting two coffee paintings for the April shower challenge that I started back in April, but I had to stop because of a wrist injury. But if you are following me on Facebook and Instagram, you would have seen I've restarted it, so I thought I would film a couple processes. So the prompts I'll be painting is soaked, that's the first one, and the second one is pouring. And if you would like to see this in real time, you can check that out over on my Patreon from just $3 a month, and you can also get early access to my Friday videos. So on to the process. So I will also make sure and link the previous videos. I did two videos of me painting like the previous paintings from when I first started the challenge, so I'll link those in an iCard in the top right hand corner as well as in the description below. And the coffee I'm using is by Nescafe. I don't honestly think it matters. That's just the one I got. That was the cheapest one I could find. And the other materials, which will be listed below, that I use the Hobbycraft round brushes. I've done a review on that, so I will put that in an iCard as well if you want to check that out. I also use some colored pencils. One is a Derwent Coloursoft Deep Terracotta. The others are by Adele, A-D-E-L. I've never really heard of that before. I don't really know where these came from, just because I got this from a friend when she just gave me her leftover coloring pencils. So, and then the other coloring pencil I use is from W.H. Smith, and those will be listed below in great detail. The sketches I've done, I did all the sketches before I started painting them again, which you would have seen on Instagram. I was updating you guys on that on my story. And for the sketches, I use a watercolor pencil from W.H. Smith. And the reason I do that is because when I go over, it does melt away, so it doesn't show up like how a regular pencil would. And it's also in a brown, kind of a light brown color, so it blends in quite nicely. What I have noticed, which is quite interesting, is that the watercolor pencil, for some reason, it kind of resists the coffee. I don't know if it'll always resist things. I don't normally use these, but it does resist the coffee, which I thought was quite interesting and really useful, because especially when it comes to her face, it's nice that I don't have to try to figure out where her eyes are, just in case I go over it with the painting. So it's really useful that it does resist, and at some point in time you will be able to see that on the video, that it does resist the coffee, so I can see where I want to go when it comes to detailing. For detailing, I use Bolmer detail brushes. In this video I used the 5-0 for detailing. And for highlights, I use a Uniball Signo white gel pen, and I use a Derwent graphic line maker just to write on the back of the illustrations, just so I know which day or prompt it's supposed to be for, so I can keep track of everything. And what I like to do before I start an illustration, I will do a quick thumbnail to be able to figure out what tones I'm using where. So I will also have some previous paintings up, especially when the character is in there, or if there's multiple illustrations with kind of the same settings, I'll have the previous paintings up so I can get the tones right, and I'll just plan out the tones on the thumbnail so I know what I'm doing. Sometimes I completely stick to it, sometimes I change it slightly, but most of the time I stick to the thumbnail, and that just helps so that I know what I'm doing, because since I'm not using different colors, it's very important for me to get the tones different, so that things stand out. Because when I add the line art, it does help things to be stand out a little bit more, but if there's really dark things around the line art, it'll also blend in. So it's really important for me to get tones right, so the character can stand out, or certain things can stand out more than others. So I do like to plan out the tones. And the paintbrush sizes I like to use are the 3 and the 6. Sometimes I use the 8, but most of the time these illustrations are very detailed, so I don't really use the bigger brushes much. Just mostly the 3 and the 6. For this one, I think I only use the 3 and the 6. I might have used the 8, not too sure. I can't remember exactly now. But yeah, I do just use these small brushes. And I think I forgot to mention that on the thumbnails, I just use my regular mechanical pencil so I can see where the lines are, because it doesn't really matter as a thumbnail. And I want to be able to see exactly like what I'm planning. So I like to use the mechanical pencil for that. And the coffee, I explained this I think in more depth in the previous videos, but what I basically did is I got a jar that was like for honey. I think I just washed it. I made sure to like pour some like hot water in it to be able to sterilize the jar, and then I put the coffee in. I put about, I think, a tablespoon of coffee, like a heaped tablespoon of coffee with some hot water. And I put too much water, so it was very runny, so I basically let it like evaporate until it became like a coffee sludge. And I like to have a coffee sludge because I can always water it down. It doesn't dry permanent. So I have this coffee sludge in my jar, and I'll just dip my paintbrush in it, and then I'll dilute it as much as I want in the palette. I use quite a deep well palette, so I can create like big washes if I want to. And I would recommend that, to have like a kind of coffee sludge, so then you can just water it down as much as you want, or you can keep it dark. And I would describe painting with coffee like painting with sticky watercolors. Since it doesn't dry permanent, it does kind of lift, but I can layer up. I tend to only do 2 layers, but sometimes I do add like a 3rd layer if I need to. So I can layer with coffee. It does lift quite easily though. Sometimes it kind of does stain as well, but yeah, it's really not too bad to use. It's nice and fun actually, and then it smells really good too. But yeah, so start off with like a thick solution and just water it down. And the thicker it is, the stickier it is. So when it's like really watered down, it's pretty much like you're painting with water really. But when it's thicker, it's really sticky and kind of difficult to work with. So I would recommend, like when I do the line art, I tend to do that in 2 layers just because it's so sticky. I can't really get it to the dark. I can't paint with such a dark tone straight off because I won't be able to like move the brush very well. So I tend to do it in like a couple layers so I can get as dark as I want. And then I just use the color pencils over top. Like one of the color pencils is like a burnt sienna kind of color, and I use that for her skin to kind of warm up her face. And then the kind of reddish brown, like the Derwent pencil, I use for her hair and like her boots and like maybe other random stuff in the background. And then one of them is a very cool brown, which I use for like her raincoat and hat, and the other one is more of like a reddier brown, which is not as red as the Derwent one, and I will use that for like background elements or something. So I do kind of separate where I use the color pencils. And the one I use for a skin tone, I might use on things like plants if I want them to look a bit warmer, but unless I want something to look warm, I won't really use that pencil. And I can't really talk about the technique with the color pencils. I'm practically scribbling. I don't really know how to use color pencils properly, so I'm just pretty much winging it. And I kind of like scribble in circles sometimes, or sometimes in like slightly straight lines. So yeah, there's no real like technique that I use for color pencils, and that's really useful. The color pencils are really nice to add like added texture, especially to warm up our face, or just to add some details that I might not be able to add with like the coffee. And it's just really nice to add texture. I like to have texture in my pieces, so I use the color pencils for that. And then the highlights, I add highlights everywhere with this. It's more for creative license than like adding highlights specifically where the sun might be hitting. It's just really nice to add details, especially in her hair. Like since we've gotten to the point in the story where her hair's gotten quite wet, it's really nice to do like frizzy hair, and then adding highlights to the frizzy hair is really fun. So I just add highlights everywhere. So it's both like highlights and details really when it comes to the white gel pen. And yeah, so it's really nice to get back to it. I did struggle with these two just because I was so out of practice. I haven't painted with coffee since April, so I did struggle to like get back into the swing of things when it came to these 2 paintings. But by the 3rd painting, I had pretty much gotten it down. I wasn't struggling as much, which was good. But yeah, it's really not too hard to use. I would say just don't expect like hugely great results just because you're not supposed to really use this as paint. It dries pretty quickly depending on how much like water you put on there. If it's like a really wet wash, it won't dry that quickly, but it dries pretty quickly, which is good. And I did find actually on these two I struggle with the tones a lot because coffee always shifts to dark, and sometimes it can shift really dark. So what I would recommend is, what I tend to do is when I make a wash, I test it out on my sketchbook, which is where I have like the thumbnails, and then I can see how much it shifts, because if it shifts to the color that I want it to end up of, but I know I'm going to layer up like 2 or 3 times, I want that to be a bit more watered down so it doesn't get too dark. Because of course the more layers you put, the more it'll get darker, and since it shifts, it'll get very dark. So coffee does shift quite a bit, so I would recommend swatching it out so you have an idea. Maybe like, because I've kind of gotten used to it shifting again as I've done like quite a few more paintings, and with practice I've gotten a little bit better. But at first I would say to swatch things out so that you can see like how dark it gets. And one other thing, I don't know if this is the paper. I'm using paper by Hobbycraft. The name is in the description below. But I've noticed, especially when you put quite watered down washes of coffee, it can have a very splotchy look when it's wet, and it can look really bad. You'll especially see that in the second painting. But after a while, it's okay. It does tend to dry like a lot flatter, but I don't know if that's the paper or the coffee. I'm not too sure. But yeah, it does flatten out as like it dries the wash, and after like a couple layers it flattens out even more. But yeah, it can look kind of splotchy and kind of scary, but yeah, it's fine. It's completely fine. Yeah, I found it does act a little bit strange at times, but it's nice and fun to work with. So I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the techniques. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I like how both of these turned out. I really like the first one. Like doing her frizzy hair was really fun to do, because like before her hair is like in a more of a loose afro, but then now that it's wet, I thought I would play with kind of making it look a bit more frizzy and the curls a bit looser, since like, you know, it might be really drenched or something, since she hasn't really been using her umbrella like that much. Like sometimes she's getting wet, sometimes she's using the umbrella. So I thought I would play with that, and I'm really happy to get back to it. It's been a long time since I've been able to do this because of my wrist injury, but I'm glad to get back to it, and I hope to complete it soon. And I don't know if you guys would remember, I would have said this in the previous videos, but basically it's supposed to be a story told with these paintings. So once I finish all the paintings, I'll be able to like work on that, and of course I'll keep you guys updated, mostly on Patreon, until like I have something to like actually show you guys like in public. But on Patreon I will keep you updated on like how the behind the scenes of this project is going once the paintings are finished. And when the paintings are finished, I will make sure and have a flip through video so you guys can see all the paintings. Of course I will be posting all of them on Instagram and Facebook, so if you don't follow me there, please do follow if you want to see all of the paintings. I've done up to day 14 as I'm doing this voiceover, so there's a few for you to see on Instagram and Facebook already. And yeah, I'll basically just keep on posting them until all of them are finished. So I'll make sure and do a flip through video, and once like I've done like the whole like story kind of zine thing, I will also let everyone know, but that will probably take a little while to make sure and edit it and clean it up and all that. So yeah, I really like how both these turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know at the moment there's like, for art challenges going on, there's smorgas. So like, are you guys doing any art challenges at the moment? If so, please do let me know. Have you ever painted with coffee? And if so, did you enjoy it? What did you paint? Let me know. And as well, if you do paint along to watching this video like with coffee, please do if you share, like tag me on Instagram or Facebook, so I would love to see what you guys create. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please do give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please do click that bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And I will see you guys next week. And if you have any like questions about painting coffee or about this project, put it down in the comments below because I'll happily answer it. So thanks again for watching. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me. Those in the Griffin tier will get a shout out at the end of the video. And yep, I think that's it. So see you guys next week. Bye.